Could you share only the percentage of what is coming from these special editions whiskeys?
It gets a little complex because you kind of have to keep breaking things down, but of everything that we sell, at least on the spirit side of things, bourbon is going to be about 80% of it still. I mean, in the United States, bourbon is absolutely king, and which is weird because globally, single malt is going to be the more consumed, at least widely consumed product. But in the United States, it's very built on bourbon. And so still to this day, about 80% of what we sell is bourbon. The remaining 20%, I'd say about 15% of that is single malt, and the remaining 5 is going to be rye. So we only do a little bit of rye just to kind of round our portfolio. So even within that single malt, so I mentioned earlier we have kind of our 3 different offerings. There's the Solera style, the single casks, and then the quintessential special release. And those are about evenly split, 33% for each of them. We kind of use them to drive each other. The hard part is that single malt is in a very unique situation in America where it's still a very new category. So even though we're gaining a fairly decent share of the pie, a decent market share, the pie is still very small. So basically we're promoting all 3 of these and working with other distilleries to help promote theirs because we need to grow the market for single malt in America before we can really start growing any particular segment of our own single malt. The last thing I'll mention is, bourbon. I mentioned about 80% of what we sell is bourbon. And this is a much better example because I mentioned that the 86 proof, we really sell that in Iowa, very little distribution elsewhere. But the clear majority of the bourbon that we sell is still that 86. We use the barrel proof to get new customers who were more enthusiasts, kind of the people that really know their stuff. We kind of bring them into the Cedar Ridge portfolio with that barrel proof bourbon that's a little bit more expensive. And then they are now fans of our distillery. And what they'll do is they'll buy that barrel proof to drink it neat. And, I call that one kind of a thinker. They'll want to sit and do a creative activity while they sip on their barrel proof bourbon. But they'll also want more of a volume product to have around their house if they're going to have friends over and make old fashions, things of that nature. Then they're now more likely to buy our 86 proof bourbon. So everything kind of comes back to that one. While it is not the product that we're using to hook new consumers, that is the product that we're selling the most of and that is going to keep the lights on here at Cedar Ridge.
Makes sense. That's I think the very, very professional strategy. How does this 97-point wine enthusiast score affect the business? Is it like in the media, online, in the magazine? It's a huge thing, but does it translate to more customers or more interest in the business, or what is the reaction?
Yeah, it absolutely does. There's a few different areas we can go on that. I mean, one, right now in a newer market, being American single malt, which has only officially been a category for like 3 days, you got to do whatever you can to stand out within that category. And getting a 97-point rating from one of the most popular publications is huge. I mean, we can really carry on about that. We can put that in our advertising and promotions, things of that nature. So it really helps us gain credibility in an emerging market. And when a market is new, credibility is pretty much everything. You want to position yourself at least near the top when it comes to credibility because people are more likely to give you a chance as they explore that category. So it helps there. But another area that we've really been studying is getting wine drinkers to convert over to single malt. Because backing up, American single malt, like I keep saying, it's a newer category. And so you got to figure out where are you going to get these consumers to transition from to come to American single malt. And your first thought might be, well, you're probably going to get Scotch drinkers to join the American single malt whiskey movement. And that just absolutely hasn't been the case. And the reason being is because if you're a Scotch drinker, you're pretty loyal to Scotch already. You've probably fallen in love with things that are, really well aged. And that's not going to be our strong suit yet because we're a fairly young movement in the United States. So we don't have 30-year-old single malt yet. We have, somewhere between 5 and 10-year-old single malt. So it's going to be really hard to get Scotch drinkers to come to American single malt. The 2 areas that we're exploring the most of are actually converting bourbon drinkers to single malt, which there has been a decent amount of. And that is because what happens is if you go really deep into bourbon, like you really become a hobbyist and you explore all these bourbons, eventually you get to the point where you want to try something that's a little bit different. And there is single malt right there to catch you. The process in single malt, there's a little bit more to study and to geek out about if you're an enthusiast. And so some bourbon converts will end up there. But lastly, the area that we've been exploring a lot is people who enjoy premium wines. If you enjoy premium wines, single malt once again is right there to catch you because the process behind it is really neat. You can study the different casks used during maturation, which a lot of times there's going to be wine casks involved. So that's a nice easy bridge there. And it's you're already used to paying a little bit more of a premium for your premium wines. And you're going to need to do the same when it comes to premium American single malts. So bourbon converts and wine converts are an area that we're really studying and working to bring more people to the single malt category right now. And so things like a high rating and wine enthusiast, I mean, that couldn't be a bigger win than it was.
Wow, I see. That makes sense. Now, well, this is the perfect place then to reach some more wine enthusiasts and the wine people to bring to the single malt culture.
Yeah, you got it.
And also the setup of your distillery is also the perfect combination. Being also a winery, you probably have access to lots of wine barrels and casks, and you have a nice playing field there.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that real quick. I mean, in addition to already having some wine consumers because of our own winery, I'll just focusing on the production elements. We have some real advantages there, and that's like today in the morning, we can dump some barrels of wine for bottling and then refill those barrels the same day with single malt. So before they dry out, before they start to kind of deteriorate or lose their influence, we can fill them up very quickly, and that is an advantage. And I'm not saying that the opposite is a disadvantage. It's just an advantage that we have that. We do bring in barrels from all over the world. The thing is that sometimes when they arrive, they're a little bit dried out. You have to hydrate the barrels and get them kind of back intact. But two, they're going to impart less flavor. So it is an advantage for us to be a winery distillery combination because we can utilize our own casks while they're still fresh in our single malt production.
Thanks for watching this video. You can watch the full podcast episode by clicking here or watch another interesting video by clicking here. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section and see you in the next one.